Let's do a quick warm-up on statistics and probability to get you ready for the new concepts. So we'll talk about mean and mean absolute deviation. This is a measure of center and a measure of variability. And median, another measure of center, and interquartile range, another measure of variability. You had this before. Now, before we get into those, let's remind ourselves, though, what a statistical question is. A statistical question has answers that will probably vary. So you're going to be gathering a bunch of data that it varies from person to person or event. And usually a statistical question will ask about a population of multiple people, events, or things. Okay? And then you'll be able to analyze that data using measures of center like mean and median, and measures of variation or variability like mean absolute deviation and interquartile range. So let's just remind ourselves what those things are. So the mean is the average of the data. You sum up the data and then you divide it by the number of the data. So here's an example of a dot plot with a bunch of data points. If we were to calculate that mean, we could add 78 plus 78 plus 78, etc., up to, let's see, the 6 times that there's a 78. And a little bit of an easier way is to go ahead and set it up like this. So the mean equals 6 data points times 78 plus 7 data points times 80 plus just 5 times 82. We won't go through the whole arithmetic here, but the total number of data points, the count, is 26. So we're going to sum all that up and we're going to divide by 26. It turns out that's 2,116 divided by 26. So the mean of the data is 81.4. And that should look like it's pretty much in the middle of the data. And 81.4 is right about here, which looks like it's in the middle. So that looks good. Okay, now to talk about the spread, one of the things we can use is the mean absolute deviation. So let's remember what that is. It's the average distance of the points from the mean. Okay, so that's just what it means. Absolute deviation is the distance from the mean, and then the average of that is this word mean here. So the way we do that is we set up a table like this one. So we have 6 data points at 78. And those are 78 minus the mean of 81.4 is 3.4 because we take the absolute value of that. So in other words, we have 6 points that are 3.4 away from the mean. We have 7 points that are 1.4 away from the mean. So we're going to average all of that as well using this equation right here. Again, the number of data points is 26. And so then if you add all the numerator up here at 60 divided by 26, and then you get a mean absolute deviation of 2.3. So that means on average, the points are 2.3 away from the mean, which is 81.4 right here. And you can see that seems about right. About 2.3 away is the average distance. Okay, so that's mean and mean absolute deviation. Another measure of center and variability are median and interquartile range. So let's remind ourselves what those are. The median is the middle value of the data. Or if there's 2 middle values, you average them or get the mean of those 2 middle values. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a data set out here. It's the exact same data set that we have over here. So we're going to be calculating the median and the interquartile range from that as well. And what you do is you find the middle value or the middle 2 values here by just dividing them, putting them in order and dividing them in half. It turns out the middle is between 80 and 82. So you would take the average of that, which would be just 81. So we'll put the median in there. And then we'll talk about the interquartile range. So the way that we calculate the interquartile range, or what it is the distance between the middles of the upper half, that's called the upper quartile, and the middle of the lower half, the lower quartile of the data. Okay, so first we have to find the upper quartile and the lower quartile. And we do the exact same thing that we did for the median. We just find the middle of this portion of the data to find the lower quartile. So let's figure out where that is. It's right there at 80. So there's one middle value. And so that's the lower quartile, 80. We do the same thing with the upper half of the data. That's at 84. So the upper quartile is 84. And then the interquartile range is just the distance or the difference between those two. So if we think about what the distance between 84 and 80 is, that's just 4. So that's the interquartile range. Okay? So 2 different ways of measuring center and variability. Good to know them both. And now you're warmed up.